Okay, it looks like we're getting started. Cassie, I'm going to check in with you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. How is my volume coming through?
It's perfect. Amazing. It looks like we've got folks here. So thank you, everyone. Hi and welcome. Appreciate you joining us for Immersion's Insight to Impact webinar. We've got an incredible group here. I just want to say a warm hello. I'm seeing some familiar names. So hi to some of our clients that are joining us live today, and welcome to some of our new faces as well. Before we dive in, I do want to cover just a couple of housekeeping items. One, while this is a webinar, this session is designed to be interactive. So you're going to see a few quick polls from us, and we are actively watching the chat. So I don't want to just have a conversation with Cassie today. We want to hear from you. So drop in your questions, your thoughts, your reactions throughout our conversation today. Additionally, we often find that these types of discussions get the wheels turning, right? So something may come up for you or something that might feel specific to you, your team, your organization. Don't hesitate to share that with us. We're happy to follow up with resources or partnership or a conversation. So with that, now that we've covered it, let's jump into some introductions. So again, for those of you that just hopped on, hi, welcome. I'm Jess Harvey. I'm the CRO here at Immersion. And my career has been rooted in one central passion, and that is helping people grow. So from my early days as an in-house L&D practitioner, like some of you on the line, to leading large-scale transformation initiatives with Fortune 500 organizations, I've focused on what really moves the needle. That's upskilling, that's behavior change, and turning those individual growth moments, those ahas or awakenings of self-awareness into measurable business impact. And I personally believe, and I think this is a shared belief of everyone here, that when we invest in our people in the right way, ROI follows. I am also joined today by two fantastic individuals who each bring a unique perspective to the conversation that we're going to have today. That's Cassie and Emma. And Cassie, I'm going to pass it over to you next.
Okay, lovely. Hello, everyone. My name's Cassie Claggett. I'm a global account director here. Similarly to Jess, I have roots that date back to L&D. Fast forward a few too many years to count, and you find me here today. But what has stuck with me through all of those years are the memories of how when we invest in our people, when we help them to grow their skills, that transformative effect that it has on them, and also that it has had on me throughout the course of my career. So I'm just very, very passionate about what investing in your self-development and learning can do for someone. And I have the best job in the world getting to work with organizations everywhere as they invest in their people. So we have another very special guest on the line. I will pass it over to Emma.
Hey everyone, my name is Emma. I'm one of the host avatars here at Immersion, and my role here is to help prepare you for your practice session. It's really great to be here today, and I look forward to our demo in a bit.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, team. So before we jump in, let's do, a brief overview of our time together. We're going to start by exploring what's really going on in the world of upskilling and leadership development, especially with the lens of managers and people leaders. We're going to then dig into how practice-based learning really leads to those stronger, better outcomes. And then we're going to finally look at, hey, what is this real world impact? Show me some of the value that this is driving and the work is having inside some of the leading organizations. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we want it to be interactive throughout. So don't hesitate to drop in questions and prompt us. But we're going to hold space at the end for some live Q&A. So with that, before we just jump in, this wouldn't really be a webinar unless we had an icebreaker, kickoff, or poll. So what I want to do is I want to ask you all to take a moment, maybe close your eyes, and think of your best people manager. And I want you to think about, kind of transport back to that moment. Why did you grow under them? Why did you feel supported? And transport back to that time. And then we're going to prompt you with this poll. When you think of them, which of these skills stand out to you in regards to your best manager? We'll give folks a second. And I don't want to be too nervous. Cassie, you're on my team. So, as your manager, I don't know if I want you to participate in this poll or not.
It was so interesting as the panel came up. So panelists can't actually vote in these, but I immediately knew which one I would go for, just immediately. It's very interesting how clear it was in terms of what made that manager special.
Amazing. All right. And we'll see, team, if we can get the results. Well, I'm going to give it a second for those to be shared with us. But maybe Cassie, share a little bit. We'll practice what stood out to us in regards to the top skills you thought of your best manager.
So the top skill that immediately jumped out for me was emotional intelligence. I've had a few managers over the course of the years, and I think what really just stands out about the one manager I have in mind is she can read any room she walks into and meet the moment. She
Mm-hmm.
has the emotional intelligence to meet someone where they're at and uplift them, really pull on their strengths, which I watched transform every team she worked with.
That's a powerful one. And it's such a gift to kind of recognize the strengths and tailor your approach to different individuals. And then talk about the complexity when you're bringing it all together for team performance. So thanks for jumping in there. I'm seeing some of the responses. So one, great news, you're in good company. Emotional intelligence also popped
Ah,
for many of our participants, as well as active listening and collaboration. Those were tied in second. I think the active listening piece is so important in a world where we've got a ton of distractions. You're coming in for your one-on-ones. It's like, are they actually over here responding to a Slack or email? Are they stopping, pausing, and deeply understanding what an individual is experiencing? Amazing. So, with any good manager experience, and hopefully those aren't few and far between, there's also the flip side of what does it look like when you have a manager that maybe isn't meeting you where you are. So, I want to flip this question on its head and ask the group, thinking back to a manager experience that wasn't as positive, when you didn't feel supported, or maybe the team wasn't driving the type of performance and outcomes that you hold yourself accountable to as an individual. If you had a magic wand, which skill would you have wanted to see in that manager? What would have been the game changer had they been able to kind of show up in that capacity? And we'll see a poll pop up in just a moment. And these are some of my favorites because you get a chance to expand a little bit rather than just a multiple choice. Give folks a little bit more time to share. Okay. And our results are going to be coming in.
so Jess, this one over to you. Just as the results are getting calculated, I think all of us at some point have experienced a manager that will remember in the ways that maybe we want to show up differently than that experience. So when
Mm-hmm.
you were sitting with this question, which skill do
Mm-hmm.
you wish or you hope that manager has invested in developing since then?
Okay, first off, I love that reframe, right? Let's have that positive momentum for this individual. I really do think it was the act of like seeing oneself as their ultimate resource. So this individual was really spread thin and dropping into lots of different things as opposed to just pausing, thinking strategically about how they could deploy themselves to the right moments and become a blocker as opposed to trying to shoulder every detail of the day. And so that's a bit of prioritization. And I think just like strategic planning and thinking.
Thanks for sharing. That's a a tough one. That really is, isn't it?
Amazing. Okay, I'm seeing some strategic thinking as well. Prioritization, empathy. That's a good one. The ability to kind of put yourself in one's
Empathy.
shoes, come alongside.
Interesting.
Amazing. Well, hopefully we can also place ourselves in a spot of empathy, I think, with some of the stats that we're going to review, just in regards to the realities of being a people leader in this environment, as the individuals who support talent on a day-to-day basis. How can we show up more strategically? So with that, Cassie, I'll pass it over to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for reflecting. I think I read something recently and it has haunted me. Our managers have more impact on our mental health than our doctors and therapists combined. I mean, think about it. Think about how much time we spend at work and in their companies. And I think we can all really, really feel that statement's true. And when we reflect on the managers that maybe contributed to a less than ideal experience, how do we practice empathy? How do we look and go, wow, well, the challenge is managers really are set up to fail. How are they supported in their journey? The difficulty is 60% of new managers are never receiving training. Most of them became accidental managers and then practiced these new skills on their employees. And that's maybe why a similar 60% are failing within that first 24 months. This is maybe why a shocking and sad, only 27% are actually rating their managers as highly effective. Now, the cost of this in the US and beyond adds up. It's trillions of dollars of cost to the economy because of these poor management practices. But what are we supposed to do, really? What is like, why does this large question matter? How are we supposed to change it? What, which leads us to ask, can we really pull together what is that cost of unskilled leadership? How can we drive this point home for our organizations so they understand I want to invest in my people today and what that looks like?
Yeah.
Which leads us to, on the next slide, we'd like to unpack this.
Yeah, that's right. So I think thanks for walking us through that, Cassie, and just talking about the individual experience, right? And kind of looking at how employees feel supported or the lack of support that they feel from their managers. And then we want to zoom out for a moment and say, how does this actually impact the organization? So I think this is a stat that hits pretty hard. 1 in 2 employees, so half the workforce, have left a job just to get away from their manager. And I know this is a stat that we've all heard before, but it's such a clear reminder that people don't leave companies, they leave managers. So no matter how strong our brand, our benefits are, if someone's direct leader isn't setting them up for success, they'll eventually walk. And manager effectiveness isn't just a nice to have, it's one of the most powerful levers we have to reduce attrition, protect institutional knowledge, and build a culture that people want to stay in. But what we know is a lot of individual managers don't have the right support to know how and when to come alongside their people. And so, talking about what is the environment, what is the missing link for them in regards to how they drive that type of experience for their direct reports. Cassie, let's talk about some of the other business impact that we see.
Really interesting. So 1 in 2 are leaving, but what are they doing before they leave? Let's talk about that hidden cost of disengagement. Gallup research is actually showing that disengaged employees are costing an organization about 34% of their annual salary and lost productivity. But think about it. Here's the real kicker. That disengagement, it's not just about someone zoning out at their desk. Often it's a reflection of that leadership. That poor management is leading to unclear expectations, lack of recognition, diminished trust, These are all key drivers of disengagement. So when we talk about manager effectiveness, we're not just talking about team morale. We're talking about protecting the bottom line. So investing in that leadership development, it's not optional, it's an essential. So as we're having the conversations with managers and with organizations on why to invest, that 34% of salary and lost productivity really stands out to me.
Well said. And then finally, it's thinking about like the broader environment, right? And according to a recent stat from MIT Sloan, when we don't, in the absence of an inclusive environment where we have that toxic culture is 10.4 times more predictive of attrition than compensation. And that's staggering as you think about the power, the voice of our managers in regards to setting the tone for an organization. And it underscores just a really, really critical truth. So poor management accelerates cultural breakdown, and that's faster than any sort of salary cut ever could. And so, and if employees feel disrespected, or perhaps inclusion is performative rather than real, or if they're witnessing a behavior that doesn't align with the organizational values, it's not often a policy issue, it's a leadership one. Managers are setting the tone. They're the front line of our culture, and their ability to lead with empathy, with clarity, and integrity directly shapes how safe, valued, and committed their teams feel. And what we know from the prior slide and what Cassie was highlighting is many managers don't have the example of what good looks like. They don't have the opportunity. It feels like a crash course of, hey, you're a really strong individual contributor. You continue to rise through the ranks, and now we're going to give you direct reports. And so you may have spent your entire career on subject matter expertise, but what does the support look like for guiding a team and driving performance and meeting individuals where they are? And then what we find is managers are practicing what they think is good or how to be a manager in real time on their people without understanding the impact or, again, having that model for a positive experience.
It's really interesting how management practices, the ones that will actually bring to the table without tested in a safe, deliberate place to practice, are almost triangulated from here's the best manager I ever experienced and the ones I want to replicate and I want to do some of what they did. And here's the manager I left and the things I want to make sure I don't bring with me. But it's such a fuzzy place that you find yourself in. And then you just hope you show up in the right way, in the right moment, when the stakes are high, when everything matters, when your heart rate's up, you're just hoping that the right version of you comes to the table. And so I think that's what makes me so excited for today. Maybe the question we ask ourselves here is, maybe there's another way to address this challenge. Maybe we can give individuals not only the knowledge of what great looks like through amazing educational content, but also that safe place to practice, to let these I hate the word soft skills, I love the word power skills, these very difficult to master power skills that are so critical to creating healthy workplace cultures, to having engaged employees that want to stay with our company. And so we'd like to ask, what does that safe place to practice this look like? And so passing it over, we want to give Immersion's answer to this very, very big question. Now you're going to notice on the screen, there's another avatar similar to Emma that we met before. One of my favorite things that I love to pull on this is the science behind it. So I was fascinated to find that research papers were coming out that really show when we engage with another human, we do this funny thing called impression management, where I'm worried what you're going to think about me. It's that little lizard part of my brain going, please think well of me. And what that does to learning potential, zip, because we're so focused on giving that other person a good experience, we're a little bit afraid to try and practice a new power skill behavior until it becomes second nature. So the design of the avatar, research shows, lets people open up, gives them that psychologically safe place. It's just slightly off enough that you can engage, that you can practice, but still real enough that it's going to suck you into the experience. So I think enough talking. Jess, what do you think about giving an overview?
I'm going to be the example. No,
Excellent.
I think that'll be perfect. I think I'm in good hands with Emma, who I think is hopping back on to get us started.
Lovely.
Great.
Well, psychological safety is huge. As a part of that, we'll try to give you a safe space to practice alone, even though we know quite a few eyeballs are watching. I'm going to put myself on mute, turn off my camera, and we'll go from there.
Amazing.
Sounds great. So, hey, Jess, I'm Emma, as you know, and I'm going to go ahead and share the scenario you're going to be doing today for your demo. Thanks for doing this today. It's great. Are you able to see that okay?
I can. That's great.
Perfect. I'm just going to read out loud the situation. So it's time for a weekly check-in with Axe, one of your direct reports who's been with the company for 2 years and on your team for 6 months. Axe is dedicated and passionate, but it's become clear, and you'll be talking to a male presenting avatar today, so he engages with colleagues in unproductive ways. Axe has been known to raise his voice with colleagues and dismiss their input, creating a negative team dynamic. And just you observed this behavior in a recent team meeting with Lee, Axe's teammate, and another of your direct reports. So for today, you'll be practicing fostering team cohesion, motivation, and an optimal work environment by providing feedback to a direct report about his communication style. And this is the first time Axe has received your feedback around this. Let me pause there, Jess. Do you have any questions on that first piece?
No, I think this is quite clear.
Great. Well, I'm just going to move over to your goal, which is to share clear and supportive feedback with Axe, obtain buy-in on next steps for improvement using the following 3 skills towards achieving that outcome. We've got empathy, constructive feedback, and coaching. Now, just normally for a regular session, we would spend a lot more time preparing together before getting into the main conversation. But let me just ask you, how do you think you might approach it?
I think I'm thinking about creating an environment where they feel safe, and a place where it's neutral so that they can join in the conversation and we can quickly move forward.
That's wonderful. So you're going to start out the conversation, just really safe environment and neutral so you can invite them in. And that's great. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the slide now if that works for you.
Great.
So what's going to happen next is I'm going to get you to Axe who can see you and hear you in real time. Again, this is a demo version. It'll be a short conversation more to give a sense. So if I end up interrupting you, that's no reflection on you, Jess, and you can say pause at any time and I'll return. If there's nothing else that you need, I'll get you to Axe. Sound good?
That sounds great.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey Jess, how's it going?
Hey, Ax, it's great to see you. How's your week going?
It's going pretty good, it's been busy, but I prefer it that way, honestly.
Oh, I know you do. So appreciative of the contributions that you make to our team consistently. Before we jump into just our regular kind of one-to-one agenda, I wanted to kick this off with some feedback. Would you be open to receiving it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I prefer directness. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I noticed in our team meeting you were becoming increasingly frustrated with Lee to the point that you raised your voice at some of his comments when he was trying to contribute to the team discussion. I'm just curious what was going on for you in that moment.
Yeah. Honestly, I was feeling frustrated. I've been a little frustrated lately with the team not really pulling their weight, and specifically with Lee. He dropped the ball. I had to pick it up and make us look good and deliver some feedback to him. Yeah, it was really frustrating.
Yeah, I that was definitely coming through just in regards to your tone, but I also think it created an environment where Lee didn't feel safe or heard to participate. So, would you be open to brainstorming together different ways that we could communicate for a more productive environment?
Um, I've got to be honest about something, Jess. I'm not here to hold anybody's
Yeah.
hand. I'm here to produce the best outcomes and highest level of work possible.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's so clear in regards to how you motivate our team and kind of try to set the standard and raise the bar for the work that you do as well. I also think that there are best practices in regards to how we speak to one another and the type of environment we facilitate so that we can all do our best work. And right now, I'm seeing a little bit of a fracture in the relationship between you and Lee based on last meeting's conversation.
Hey, Jess, I know that was a brief interaction, but did you get enough of a sense?
I did. No, I think it's helpful for us to see the reality and the bit of the hot seat that you can feel. That felt like a conversation that I've been faced with before.
Oh, excellent. Did you want to do any kind of a high level reflection, even just a little bit to show what it's like, or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, good. So you already kind of talked about this, but how are you feeling after that conversation?
One, I think the appropriate amount of stress. I do forget sometimes that this is just an avatar, so it felt real. And I also felt like I was working toward creating an environment where they felt comfortable. But obviously, Axe still wasn't there yet. There's still some
Right.
pushback and resistance.
Yeah, and again, it was a short conversation. That was my choice just for the webinar to just give a sense of it. You had talked about how you were going to create a safe environment there to start, a little bit neutral so that, Axe could meet you in the conversation. Um, do you want to talk a little bit how the impact of your approach had on the conversation?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so any thoughts just based on that? Uh, did it seem to help you get towards the goal that you were looking for to share that clear and supportive feedback?
I think so. I again, like it was a short one, but I think we were getting there. And what I was trying to do as a coach myself is acknowledge and validate Axe's experience and the frustration, and then move toward yes. And how do we take your high standard in regards to how you contribute to the team and meet people where they are, so that you can bring them along the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something that I observed during your conversation is just you did have that beginning where you had curiosity. You did invite Ax to go ahead and share on how he was feeling about things, and you got the information that he was busy. And just another observation too is how do you remember that moment when you were sharing like, "Hey, I'd like to work with you on how to be more constructive in this feedback," and what his reaction was?
Yes,
Yeah.
and oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was the intent, right? To come alongside and ensure that they felt like we were co-creating a solution as opposed to I'm just going to tell you exactly what needs to be true.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that also was something new to Axe. Again, this is the first time he's received this kind of feedback from you around his communication style. And in his opinion, my observation is that he thinks it's working. It is going to take some work there to kind of help him understand what it's like going to be partner and inclusive with the team, especially Lee, who he's having issues with. So for a regular session, you and I could dig more into that. We'd also talk about those skills and pull out some takeaways. But for the sake of time, Jess, if this feels like a good enough sense of what it's like, I'll go ahead and say thank you so much for trying this out and get you back to
Thank you,
everyone.
Emma.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, Cassie, how did that feel? How did I do?
I think it feels so unfair. You just proved to everyone that I had you in mind for emotional intelligence when I was saying my best manager experience. You're really, really good. I love the way you walked into the room and you understood that Axe likes direct communication and you met Axe where they were at in the moment to be able to provide that. I've certainly experienced it firsthand, just how good you are with the emotional intelligence side of things. But the good news is we have a lot of research that indicates how do managers typically do in this scenario. Now, that was a very truncated experience, one that was just designed to show what is it like if we throw someone into the mix. And you might have had a little bit of a heads up on what that scenario was going to be and how to guide through it so beautifully. But a fascinating thing that has emerged from that is when we see managers go through this, usually only 30% of those participants are actually shown to be successful in their first attempt at the conversation. Whereas when they have the ability to practice it a few times over and reflect on their first performance, that number quickly jumps to 55%. Reviewing a breakdown of the conversation, we see that over 85% of managers are able to have strong relationship building conversations with empathy. This is a skill we can build just like any other skill. But that number decreases to about 68% effectively giving feedback, whereas the largest decrease in their ability to coach to their direct report with the feedback and get buy-in is only about 44% of participants being able to do that effectively. To do all of it effectively, that's where we get that 30% number from. So having that ability as a manager to coach to your direct report, like, you drive business outcomes. We know that on engagement, retention, productivity. So 22% increase in engagement if we can get these types of skills down. 18% higher engagement in teams. These things have a trickle impact. They're the power skills that build. So in addition to these powerful metrics, 96% of participants reported, hey, I actually feel more confident to step into these types of difficult conversations now that I've had a chance to practice and fail and practice
Mm-hmm.
again in a safe space. So growing that confidence across the team is having ripple impacts across managers and across employees, leading to better engagement, performance, and growth, which I love. What stands out for you in all of this, Jess?
Well, one, this data resonates even more immediately following going through a simulation personally. A couple of things. So I think the confidence thing is critical, both from building the initial skill of how do I want to show up, what do I want to become that muscle memory and best practice, but then also there's this element of just in time. And I know for some of us, if you've been managing a team for many years, you might not be going in to practice what the frameworks, the best practices tell you to do in regards to engaging with your employees. And so I'm also thinking about what is that just in time where, hey, I have a crucial conversation coming up in an hour. I'm going to hop on the platform and I'm going to practice it and get comfortable with the high stakes nature and how to adapt and how to show up with empathy to drive a better real world outcome.
Love that. Well,
I mean,
I think that leads us into what it is that we do here, everyone. I think we got a very small snapshot into what does a safe place to practice actually look like? What types of things surface? The fun thing is you can do that same scenario 500 times, and it's never going to be identical each time because every moment you're going to bring a different one of your skills to the table, which I love. And that's why we're just committed to our mission as an upskilling platform to use AI and human insight to be able to ready your teams for more positive and productive interactions. And here's the kicker. This isn't just manager to employees, but it's also colleague to colleague, colleague to customer. And the impact across not only our teams, but our peers and our customers can grow when we focus on upskilling the behaviors that matter.
well said.
Which I think
So
is the natural
yes, leads
segue.
us to this point. So I think I saw a note from our host. I think questions have been trickling in that they've been gathering for us. So let's see what's top of mind, and we'll jump in. I think there's
Oh,
some pulling going on.
oh.
Okay, what's the best way to identify which leadership challenges are most practice worthy? I like that. Practice worthy in our organization. I'm going to read that one more time for you. What's the best way to identify which leadership challenges are most practice worthy in our organization?
That's a powerful question. And I think it's a big question. I think it's one I'm hearing from organizations every day. It's like, okay, so we're bought into the idea. We want to help our organizations practice the right behaviors, but the right skills. But which ones should we actually focus on? Which ones are the practice worthy ones? And the answer usually starts the same. We love to ask the question, what matters for your organization? Where are you trying to go? What outcomes do you need to deliver today, tomorrow, the day after? From there, we're able to take a look at what are the key skills and capabilities that line up with those outcomes that are actually going to be able to drive success. In an ideal world, we can get everyone together into an area where they can show their skills and areas for development. And then we're able to identify, hey, these ones are really, really standing out as practice worthy. Jess, what would you add?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's not just about, and I say this as a former L&D practitioner myself who had some skill taxonomy that I was trying to attach to every interaction that someone had with our HR team at the time. It's not just about do we have a list of skills or are those skills mapped to specific roles and responsibilities, but it's what are the needle movers? What are the specific things that if we are laser focused on upskilling our managers on these 3 to 6 items, it's going to drive performance and business outcome in a way that it's meaningful to the organization. It's something that you're taking to your C-suite to say, this is what got the job done. And so that's a huge part of our solution design process when we start any type of work with a customer.
Love that. Okay. Looks like an attendee question has come in. So Jess, I'll send this one to you to field first. It
Okay.
is, what do you think is one of the most valuable things my people will get out of your simulations?
That's a good one. One of the most valuable. So what I'm going to say is I think going into the the act of deliberate practice, right? So starting with guidance and intention on the skills that are in focus, practicing specific skills, and then receiving immediate feedback leads to an intentionality. And so as individuals go into the practice environment with immersion, they get to, yes, experience and practice the skills, but it causes them to pause before those high stake environments and those high stakes conversations to say, what is in my toolkit? What do I want to apply to this situation to be most successful? And that type of awareness comes from the practice. So, yes, it's about upskilling specific skills, but a lot of it is that intentionality and that awareness of pause, create a strategy, and then implement before you head into a situation. So, that's what comes up for me. Cassie, I'd love to know if that resonates and if there's anything you'd add.
It does. I think what I'm hearing you say, to just paraphrase and make sure I'm understanding, is one of the most valuable things people will get out of it is the ability to stop operating on autopilot for a moment.
Mm, well said.
Lead in with intentionality for who is it that I want to be? How do I want to show up? Have that safe place to practice it so that when they're in the real moment, they're able to show up in the way that they wanted. How
Mm-hmm.
well does that match and align?
That was succinct, to the point, and memorable. Thank you. Okay, so I see another one coming in, and I think this piggybacks nicely off of what we were just covering. Do we find as an organization that people are easily able to apply their practices back at work? Essentially, does this translate to on-the-job improvement?
This is such a big question. And I think one L&D professionals feel deep in their soul every time it comes up. It's one of those things where we understand that when you invest in your own self-development, amazing things happen. It's kind of like, Jess, I bought myself a masterclass subscription with the grandest intentions. And I thought, I am going to watch every single one of these videos. This is going to be fantastic. I'm going to develop new hobbies. I'm going to be the world's best chef, best gardener. I'm going to watch what else is on there. The reality is I ended up watching two of them and then the year went by and I didn't utilize all of my masterclass subscriptions. So that was a moment of failed engagement. But what I love
Hmm.
about what we do here is we understand the learner journey. We've worked with Fortune, already a third of Fortune 100 organizations, and we've seen what works. Like, how do you inspire your individuals to step into that space to practice? Now, what that best practice looks like, organization to organization, is a little bit different for every organization. But from an engagement perspective, we have incredible stats across the board. I think the one that really stands out to me is how many people say they want to do it again. They want to
Mm.
practice it again. In the 90th percentile, yes, let me get hands on. Jess, what would you add?
Yeah, I think that's right. So I think one, it's ensuring that people are connected to the experience, right? Like, is immersion embedded into their flow of work and connected to the outcomes that they're going to drive? It's a little bit of that, what's in it for me. Once those specific skills are pinpointed, they're seeing themselves, they're engaged, it leads to, okay, now I know how this feels different. And through the reflection that I do with that host avatar, we are talking about the practical applications. So even at the conclusion, I know it was like a truncated demo experience, but one of the things that I would have covered with Emma is, hey, based on my conversation with X, what am I going to do differently in my next interaction with a direct report or with a colleague? How do you see this playing out at work? What strategies are you going to leverage the next time you find yourself in this situation? And so that's a key component of how we connect it to the real world activities and what happens next.
I love that. Well, Jess, it's time for me to practice one of my skills that I'm working on developing, um, which is time management and practice. I know we only booked 45 minutes of your time here today, and thank you so much for engaging, for bringing such great questions. Materials will go out after. I know there's some we didn't have a chance to get to, but what's next here? Like, okay, where do we go from here? Maybe you're intrigued and you're just wondering, how could I actually identify the most important skills my organization could be working on right now? We'd love to help you with that. If you want to just drop a note into the Q&A or reach out in any other way, we're going to schedule to get in touch with you and help you identify the skills that matter to move the needle for your organization and hopefully provide that safe place to practice.
Well said. Thank you everyone so much for joining. We'll stay on for just a bit, capture those questions in Q&A, and thanks again for joining us.